Hi, you're on the Retelling Films channel, and this is a retelling of the movie Leave the World Behind. Due to a mysterious cyber attack, ships are thrown ashore and airplanes crash into the oceans. The film begins with views of an early morning New York City, in which Amanda, the main character, is packing her bags to suddenly take the whole family on an unplanned vacation to the coast. For the sake of such an occasion, the woman managed to rent a house in the middle of nowhere from the city. Realizing that it is pointless to argue with his wife, her husband Clay obeys without complaint. All the more so that his wife, looking out the morning window, philosophizes about how much she hates people. And so the whole family is driving down the deserted highway towards a vacation at the coast. Only daughter Rose is not happy to go. In the middle of nowhere, there is no internet coverage, so she cannot finish watching the final episode of her favourite TV series Friends. Arriving at the rental house, the parents send their offspring to splash around in the pool. Clay is disappointed to discover that the liquor cabinet is locked, and Amanda decides to go into town for groceries. At the local supermarket, she notices a stern-looking man diligently loading the back of his pickup truck with supplies of drinking water and canned goods. After having lunch and making love while the children swim in the pool, the family goes to a nearby beach. Their son Archie admires the girls in their swimsuits while Rose visually observes an oil tanker moving in a suspiciously straight line toward the beach. After a while, the girl notices that the vessel is getting closer and closer, and now a huge oil tanker sails close to the shore. Alarmed parents tell the children to run away from the beach, but they run away just in time, just as the tanker comes ashore. On the way out, the guard informs us that there are several such cases all along the coast. Apparently, the ships had a navigation failure. Back at the house, Amanda notices that there are wild deer in the yard that have gotten in through the hedge, but she doesn't pay any attention to it. The family has dinner, after which the children go to bed and the parents play Jenga, brightening the game with alcohol. The game is interrupted by a suspicious knock on the door. Outside stands Man George and his daughter Ruth, who introduces themselves as the owners of the house. They explain that they came to spend the night because the power went out in New York City and with it cell phone service. Without power to the elevator, it takes too long to climb the stairs to the 14th floor. The uninvited hosts ask to spend the night, promising to compensate half of the deposit. After entering the house, George opens a locked liquor cabinet with his key, which also contains a gun and an envelope with money. He gives $1,000 to the guests as compensation. Amanda does not want to spend the night under the same roof with strangers, fearing that they might harm them. But Clay, as a teacher, wants to help the uninvited guests, despite the unbearable nature of Ruth's teasing. George's concoction of alcoholic cocktail from a locked cabinet assures Clay that they are the real owners of the house. When a federal emergency warning is broadcast on all television stations, Clay becomes convinced that everything the overnight guests have said is true. He allows them to stay despite his wife's displeasure. The homeowners go to sleep in the basement while the tenants sleep in the upstairs bedroom. As they fall asleep, no one notices a signal coming through the interference on the television about a massive cyber attack on the entire country. In the morning, Amanda wakes Rose. The girl really wants to watch the finale of the series Friends, but there is no internet, and the TV broadcasts only satellite interference. After sending her daughter into the living room, the woman notices news notifications on her phone. The power is out due to a hacker attack. She wakes her husband to show the news, but the messages mysteriously disappear. Clay goes to town to find out the latest news, and Amanda stays with the children to protect them from the owners. They don't suspect that Rose is watching the herd of deer in the yard at the same time. Discussing the possible causes of cell phone service interruption, a man talks about the I Love You computer virus written in the year 2000 by two teenagers. At that time, corporations suffered several $billions in losses. He hopes it's someone's stupid joke this time too. George plans to go to the nearest neighbours 3 kilometres away to find out the latest news. The further story's divided into 3 parts. Clay wanders through rural roads without a sat-nav, unable to reach the city. On his way back, he meets an immigrant woman on the side of the road who speaks Spanish. Not understanding what she says, the man drives away. A little later, he sees a drone in the sky, scattering something scarlet. Terrified, the man turns around and speeds away, but the drone catches up with him, showering him with propaganda leaflets. At this time, Archie is swimming in the pool. When Ruth comes out, the guy immediately has a pronounced hormonal interest in the girl he is secretly photographing. But everything spoils the younger sister. She has seen deer and wants to look for them in the woods. Archie has to follow Rose, which leads them to an abandoned barn that overlooks the other neighbour's house. After looking at the house in the distance, the children return. George goes to the neighbour's house, bringing a gun just in case. He enters the house, which shows signs of breaking and entering, scattered belongings, a flooded floor, and broken windows. Unable to locate the owners, the man loots in the garage, taking a satellite phone to contact the outside world, but even it doesn't work. He goes to the beach behind the house, where he finds a watch in the sand worn on a severed human arm. The man notices that the entire beach is strewn with corpses, victims of a plane crash. There is also the wreckage of the passenger plane that crashed not too long ago. In the sky, dotted with clouds, the man notices a suspicious movement, from which he runs away in panic. The source of the movement is a crashed airliner. It crashes in the coastal waters, almost immediately causing a powerful tidal wave. Back home, the water-wet man asks his daughter to bring dry clothes from the study. He himself admits to Amanda that being a financier, he suspected some impending disaster, which is why he came to the country house. According to him, the satellite phone does not work because of a hacker attack. The conversation is interrupted by a sudden loud noise from an unknown source that nearly drives them all crazy. Amanda runs out into the woods in a panic, covering her ears with her hands, where she finds the children. When the noise has stopped, they return home. Those gathered inside discuss survival plans and theories about what happened. A woman tells them that she saw a local man outside the store stocking up on provisions. George assumes it is Danny, a construction worker who worked for him and is obsessed with survival ideas. Clay soon returns, bringing with him propaganda leaflets. Archie recognises the Arabic words on the leaflet, which reads "Death to America" as a slogan. He's seen the same inscription in a video game, and alarmed by the potential attack on the country, Amanda and Clay want to leave. They take the kids and drive away down the highway until they hit a traffic jam orchestrated by new Tesla models. After inspecting the autopilot cars, Amanda realises that they have been remotely controlled. When she notices the cars approaching, she tells her husband to get in the car and turn around. When she starts the car, she sees the new Tesla models rushing towards them at full speed. The woman dodges filigree between them, thereby saving the lives of herself and her family. The family returns to George's house, who happily lets them in. Gathering together, the adults discuss what to do next. But all the ideas boil down to one simple thought: survive one more night, and in the morning see what happens next. After putting Archie and Rose to bed, the parents scatter. Clay is in the garden smoking pot with Ruth, while Amanda and George are in the house drinking wine. While the teenager shocks the English teacher with questions about intimacy with female students, George and Amanda discuss the situation. George admits that he works as a financial analyst. One of his clients is a military contractor, aware of very sensitive information. The day before the start of all this mess, he asked to transfer all the money to another account. And to George's joking question about the impending collapse, he replied with a depressing phrase, "Take care of yourself." A confluence of factors causes George to break away from the city to the country house. The information upsets Amanda. To cheer her up, George invites her to his personal vinyl vault, but instead of classical jazz, she prefers hip-hop, to which they dance and eventually embrace. George remembers his wife, who was on an airplane at the time of all that happened, which reduces her chances of survival to 0. The evening abruptly ends with another sonic attack. The hosts and guests settle down for the night in the same rooms, only now the children want to share their worries and fears about what happened with their parents. In the morning, the situation worsens. Rose escapes and Archie's teeth fall out, followed by uncontrollable vomiting. The young man admits to having been bitten by a tick in the woods the day before. George recognizes the symptoms as Lyme disease and suggests going to Denny, a neighboring survivalist who probably has medication for this case. Anyway, the road to the hospital and the town is blocked by cars. George and Clay take Archie away, while Amanda and Ruth go in search of Rose. The girl was obsessed with finding yesterday's deer. While the women work things out in the cabin, in the woods, and wait for Rose to return, the men go to Denny's house. He meets them with a shotgun, not happy about the arrival of his guests. The visitors beg Denny to help, but he refuses. He was stocking up for his family, not for strangers. Denny tells them that the political climate of the world has been coming to this for a long time. America has made too many enemies who could unite to overthrow its hegemony. He recommends going to another neighbor who he learns has secretly built a veritable underground bunker. An angry George pulls out a gun and points it at Denny. The men are calmed down by Clay, who convinces Denny that he will do anything for a family like his own. The survivalist gives in to the entreaties and sells a vial of antibiotics for $1,000. While Archie takes the pills, the men discuss what has happened. Denny is sure that the country is under attack, either by the Russians or the Koreans and Chinese. Clay shows him a leaflet with Arabic symbols, to which he says it is a fake. Shortly before the collapse, a fellow Iraq veteran called him and told him about similar leaflets, only in some Asian language. Already sitting in the car, George tells us that his client, a contractor for the Department of Defense, told him about a similar plan in 3 stages. First, to isolate the country, cut off communications, then to misinform the confused population with psychological attacks like leaflets and sonic weapons. The last step is internal conflict. Confused and frightened citizens will stage a civil war and destroy the existing system themselves, with minimal effort on their part. At this time, Amanda and Ruth face an invasion of a herd of deer in the cabin. Once outside, they scare the animals away by shouting, not realizing what they want from them. They move on, hoping to find Rose, but instead witness a gruesome sight, an atomic explosion in the metropolis across the strait. A mushroom of fire and ash rises above the city, and other smaller ones grow nearby, marking the beginning of the 3rd stage of the cunning plan. While the adults are busy doing chores, Rose climbs into an empty neighbor's house. There she eats a supply of food and water, then goes down to the basement, where she finds a bunker carefully prepared for the apocalypse. Among the supplies of food and water, the girl sees a collection of DVDs, including the series Friends. She takes out the right disc and turns on the last episode to find out how the main characters ended up. The movie ends with an upbeat and comedic musical intro. What do you think about this movie? If you liked my short retelling, then put likes and comments. I will be very interested to read them. Subscribe to my channel and see you soon.